Mike, is that you?
Michael McGee.
All right.
Wonderful. All right.
There he is.
We are on the air, Mr. Mayor.
Everybody ready to go? Call the March 23rd, 2020 City Council Committee to hold order. The clerk will call the roll.
Arivalo.
Here.
Brereton.
Here.
Crawford.
Here.
Frank.
Here.
Freeman.
Here.
McGee.
Here.
Porter.
Here.
Ratcliffe.
Here.
Snow.
Here.
Stevens.
Here.
We have 10 in participation.
Okay, well, good. We have a full house. Before we get started, I'd just like to thank everybody for making an effort to participate tonight. We're in uncharted territory. Every day, things change from hour to hour. Advice from the federal government, the state government, the health department, etc. And so we are examining all of that information. We're posting that information on our website or with links to other websites that have information that would be of interest to the folks that live here. We made some changes to the website. When you go to the website now, there in red script is a virus hotline, or if you will, it will list all of the pertinent new information. There is also a button that is a translator that you hit the button and pick your language and it translates the website for you into that language. There's also an ADA button now. We have been ADA compliant for some time, but this will, if you hit that button, it outlines all of the ADA compliance issues and how we meet them. So we're working our way through this. As you can see, if you're seeing this on TV, we're doing social distancing in the chamber, and it's much easier when we have some folks that are calling from home and some folks that are attending in person. So, without further ado, under public safety, unfinished business, we have none this evening. Under public safety, new business, under A, we have amending section 110-2 of the City of Belvidere Municipal Code. It's a traffic code amendment. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Snow. May I have a second? Second by Alderman Ratcliffe. Those folks listening at home can second things too. So I have a motion and a second. Additional questions or comments? Alderman Snow.
In case everybody didn't hear, Marcia had pointed out that there is a typo in the third paragraph in the middle where it says between 26 and 25. That's supposed to be 35.
That is correct. The purpose for this amendment is actually to incorporate and codify what has been current practice now for several years. Several years ago, the state amended the speeding codes to make speeds between 26 and 35 a Class B misdemeanor. And what this allows officers to do is to charge that kind of speeding ticket as an ordinance violation, so that there's no need to effectively book a person speeding at that speed in order to take them into custody. They can simply issue a ticket, and then I can prosecute that as an ordinance violation in court. So the recommended motion is as stated, to amend section 110-2-2/5 as recommended by the city attorney to only exclude 625 ILCS 511-601-5B from adoption of the Illinois Vehicle Code. And I do apologize. Can everybody at home hear when the mayor and everybody else is talking adequately?
Mayor is kind of weak on, everybody else is good.
Okay. So,
Yeah, I hear everybody else good too,
Mayor's
except
kinda
the mayor's kind of weak, yeah.
so just speak into your microphone a little more clearly.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Good. I know to get closer to the microphone. So, Alderman Snow.
Is this something that we, for the purpose of being good to the citizens or whatever, need to expedite, as in waiving the 2-week layover? Just tossing that out there.
No, that's not.
Any additional questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor? Alderman Stevens.
I'm just curious on page 2 what the exemptions are. Is it just list by code and all that? Just kind of curious.
Oh, okay. Hang on a second. So sorry, I didn't have my microphone off. We had exempted from adoption. When we did this ordinance, actually predates me, then we recodified it once I took office in 2003 to make it a little more clear. We adopt the entire Illinois Vehicle Code as a local ordinance. That allows for faster processing on behalf of the defendants. They have 1 court appearance, sometimes 2, if they ask for a trial. But it also cuts down their costs and also makes it easier on the city from a paperwork standpoint. So we did not codify, however, and they have to be charged with state charges the following. Any offense which is classified as a felony. Article 5 of Chapter 11 of the Vehicle Code, which is basically your DUIs and driving under influence of some other kind of drug. Article 2 of Chapter 6 of the Illinois Vehicle Code, which pertains to certain types of licensing violations. Article 3 of Chapter 6 of the Illinois Vehicle Code, which, with the exceptions of 301 and 304, and Shane, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at least one of those may pertain to suspended registration. But those are typically registration-type issues which are not charged they have to be charged as a state charge that can affect the Secretary of State correctly. 11601.5, which, I don't recall which one that is, Shane, do you?
No.
I'd have to look that one up again. And then anything that's beyond our authority to actually enforce, and that's kind of a catch-all in case there's something that we did not have the authority to adopt, it's therefore not adopted.
Just a point of clarification, there are exceptions, not exemptions.
I'm sorry,
Do-
601.5 is what we're actually amending. That's the speeding charge, which was originally Class A misdemeanor only.
Okay. So, any additional questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor?
I had a question. Marcia here.
Okay, Alderman Freeman, please ask your questions.
Attorney Drella, is not 26 to 35 miles and over the speed limit charged as a reckless driving?
No,
It's not just
Nope.
speeding ticket. Is that not a reckless driving charge already?
no.
Okay.
Additional questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Sounds unanimous to me. Okay, thank you. Next up,
You're on the side.
under Finance and Personnel Unfinished Business, we have none. Under Finance and Personnel New Business, first up is we have the iFiber agreement.
I can take that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, the city attorney will take this one.
And as a head start, the recommended motion is to approve execution of the Master Services Agreement with iFiber Resource Group. iFiber is actually a nonprofit entity, but it's tied to Northern Illinois University. Many moons ago, when I say many moons ago, about a decade or so ago, they created a fiber ring that spans a good chunk of Northern Illinois, and that was put in place primarily to service governmental and other nonprofit agencies, but they also open it up to commercial entities if they want to pay for it and sign on to try and cut down everybody else's cost. We did not, while we were involved in the initial implementation of iFiber, the city at that time did not actually join on to iFiber. We used Comcast at that point as our internet provider. About 4 or 5 years ago, we looked at going to the current telephone system, which is a voice over internet protocol system. To do that, at that point, we had to sign an agreement with iFiber and switch our high-speed internet over to iFiber so as to be able to use voice over internet phone calls. In doing that, we had significant savings at the time because we were able to cancel our, I think there are T1 lines, but high-speed lines with Frontier. So we had cost savings at that point. That contract has now lapsed, and so to continue with high-speed internet, to be able to use voice over internet protocol telephones, we do need to re-up that agreement. We also need to have that agreement, given our current relationship with the sheriff's office, which we're going to be talking about again later on. That is the fiber network that allows us to share IT resources with Boone County, the sheriff's department, as well as the combined phone system which the council previously approved. So in order to take advantage of all those things, we have to be on night fiber. So I would recommend the motion that I put forth in the memo.
May I have a motion to approve?
Alderman Crawford will make that motion.
Alderman Crawford, and a second. Alderman Revelo. Questions, comments, or further discussion concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor? Yes, ma'am.
We don't have to pay for the installation fee, right? We're just renewing it.
Correct.
Alderman Snow.
So is this like physical cable that comes to the city, or is it just a box that our telephone or another cable actually connects to and helps
No,
expedite it once it gets to that box?
It is a physical fiber connection to the city, but there's also a box in the city that connects to. It's both. But it's a physical piece of, it's actually, I think of a large strand of multiple fibers, actually, that go from here to the BSB to Logan Avenue and back here for our own little private circle ring. So if anyone's spot gets broken, we can also still talk to each other. And it's all part of a greater ring that goes from here all the way to NIU Rockford, into downtown Rockford, south past Ottawa, loops through DeKalb, University of Northern Illinois, heads a little further east, then comes back north and connects back here. So it's a very large fiber ring.
So do private entities like my work, R&D Thiel, know this is out there and they could connect to it, or are they?
iFiber's been very active at trying to market it, yes.
Additional questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, you may want to skip if there's anybody opposed again because of the lag time.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion is passed. Forward to City Council for further discussion. Brings us to B, intergovernmental agreement for information technology services between the City of Belvidere and Boone County. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Snow, second, please.
I'll second that.
By Alderman Revelo. Questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor? Yes, Alderman Frank.
I have some.
Okay.
Alderman Freeman.
I was going to ask if they came up with a fee that we have to pay them.
Becky, or Darla, whichever one of you want to take it.
If you use the microphone up there, Becky.
Hello? Okay, so the fee that the sheriff suggested was that the city pay half of one IT salary plus benefits. So that came out to, it's 47,000 and some change. I don't have it right in front of me. That would be the annual amount that we would be paying for the service.
In the packets, the average one-half fee was $47,550.75 for the first year.
Alderman Freeman, you had some questions?
Yeah, I had a couple questions about this. So Section D says that the IT department will obtain the CALS as necessary on behalf of each party, and the party will be responsible for the cost. So are they going to just pick somebody? Are they going to shop around and get us the best deal? How are they? We just are stuck with what they pick, or how is that going to work?
CALs are a specific Microsoft licensing term because the reality is we are all married to Microsoft for our servers as well as our Office products. We have to purchase the CALs, so there is no shopping around. It's all Microsoft. And Microsoft is
Okay.
CALs is their reference, what they call their user licenses.
Okay, and then on the department personnel, it says that the agreement consists of 3 individuals. So we're paying half of all 3, and that would be $47,550, and that's all 3, right?
We are paying the half of There are 3 current employees that are in that department. We will, as our contribution, pay the half salary of the average employee. So that is right, you're correct, it's only the $47,000 and change one time.
Okay, and then, I guess that was it.
And for my 2 cents, the reality is, really since I started here in 2003, the anecdotal stories, I walked in one day and there was a guy sitting at what appeared to be a server on a coffee table in the corner of the clerk's office typing away, and I went back to my new office and walked back out for lunch, and he was still there, and came back from lunch, and he's still there, and I finally walked up to him and said, "What are you doing?" And it turned out he was the city's retained expert for server. He goes, "Well, I'm trying to fix the problem with the server." And I don't know a lot about servers, but I knew enough to say, well, it shouldn't take you that long. I said, go leave. I called another consultant that came in and had it fixed in half an hour. Their hourly rate was about a third higher than his rate, but it took them half an hour. It took him 6 hours to do. So you could figure out which one was cheaper. After I figured that out and they learned I knew how to turn the servers on, I got stuck with IT. And the reality is, while we've muddled through and literally muddled through since then, I think the last bout of ransomware we had really showed the limits of the city and the fact that we really hadn't kept up to date as well as we should with respect to maintenance on our servers, maintenance on our clients. We had not gotten into the next century with respect to being able to comply with the Open Meetings Act and the FOIA Act. By going to this agreement, you are getting 3 very professional IT professionals that know exactly what they're doing. You've got one that is knows a little bit about everything, is really good at a lot of things, one that's a networking expert, and another one that's really good with code. And we're also getting redundancy in the sense that if we lost power here at City Hall, we lost everything. They have redundant power sources over there. When our server caught the ransomware, we were down for effectively 2 weeks not being able to operate. They actually run redundant servers that are backed up simultaneously. So if one goes down, they can switch over in a matter of an hour and be back up and running. So it is my wholehearted endorsement that we go into this agreement because it puts the city in a much better footing to respond to catastrophic issues with respect to our own IT services, as well as if there was some kind of an issue of a environmental nature where we lost power, we'd still be able to get up and running, at least with respect to our servers.
Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. So it takes us to item C, acceptance of the National League of Cities Institute NLCI City Innovation Ecosystems Grant. May I have you want to talk about it, Becky?
I wasn't sure if Pam was going to be here to discuss this. This was a grant that was from the National League of Cities Institute that it will actually flow through. It's a grant that has to go to the city, but it would flow through 2 growth dimensions for this particular program. So the city has to be the recipient of the grant, and it is for $20,000.
This grant pays for training
Right.
for small business, which since the SBA has pretty much disappeared from the scene, this came through the Kauffman Foundation through the National League of Cities and will allow us to work with our smaller businesses in the community to help them as they plan and expand their business. May I have a motion to approve? Motion by Alderman Ratcliffe. May I have a second, please? Second by Alderman Snow. Questions or comments? Alderman Stevens, did you have a question? Okay. Hearing none.
Mr. Mayor, did you want to see if there's anybody?
Is there anybody at home that would have a comment?
Guess not.
Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. Next, under 5, under other, under A, we have the Logan Avenue Phase 2 Design Engineering. Director Anderson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Memo in your packets, Logan Avenue Phase 2 Design Engineering. Art Design Resources has completed our Phase 1 design for Logan Avenue. and we have subsequently met with IDOT regarding our ITEP funding for the ITEP grant program. However, based on our eligible items being limited to the sidewalks and driveways and the corresponding federal design requirements that they would apply to us on the entire project, we've decided that ITEP funds for this particular project will not be applied for. That being said, I've been in contact with Commonwealth Edison and Frontier primarily to get our utilities relocated, and ComEd has completed their initial review, and they've determined that 20 of their poles will need to be moved, and they've indicated that they would like to have, both ComEd and Frontier would like to have pre-final plans before that work is actually proceeds. There, that's better. So the engineering design proposal from Mark Design was for $95,000 for design engineering. As I said, phase 1 was already done. So phase 2 would be in the amount of $50,000, and I would recommend approval of the proposal from Mark Design Resources in an amount not to exceed $50,000 to complete the phase 2 design engineering for Logan Avenue rehabilitation project, and this work will be paid for from the proceeds from our local motor fuel tax.
Okay. May I have a motion to that effect?
Alderman Crawford will make that motion.
Okay, Alderman Snow made the motion, Alderman Crawford seconded. Questions, comments, or further discussion concerning the motion now on the floor? Alderman Snow.
So the ITIP, what exactly does that do or not do for us, or we're just losing it and how much money and yada, yada, yada?
The ITEP portion, we were hoping to be able to basically pay for from the curb and gutter out. So curb and gutter, sidewalk, driveways, everything outside of those parameters. However, after review from IDOT, they indicated the only provisions that we can pay for would be sidewalks and driveways. However, the federal guidelines would be administered on the entire roadway project. So there's more stringent specifications you got to meet, more testing has to be done, a lot more parameters, which tends to increase the overall cost of the project. So on a $2 million project, we were looking at maybe $200,000 to $300,000 of grant money, which is 80-20 match for that portion of it, but it increases the entire cost of the project because it's federally, we got to go follow the federal guidelines. And they get down to the point where a lot of the driveways, existing driveways on Logan Avenue, they would have to be reduced in width because they have federal requirements, has specific widths for driveways and things that I thought just didn't really apply on this project. And then the funding, like I said, with the additional costs, so that's why it was determined that we would not apply for ITEP funds for this project.
Thank you.
So your goal is to reduce the overall cost?
That's our goal, and it's about a wash with the grant funds.
Okay. Additional questions or comments concerning the motion?
I have a question.
Okay, we have 3 questions. Alderman Frank goes first.
I was just wondering, with the Logan Avenue, would that have any effect on the stormwater flooding, what we're going to be doing?
No, it does not contemplate any changes to the existing storm sewer system other than rehabilitating some of the existing manholes. It does not increase capacity or change storm drain patterns.
So it won't help it?
No, there's no, the storm sewer system in Logan Avenue, there was no deficiencies noted in the overall stormwater plan, so that's why we're not doing any stormwater specific items on that project.
Next up is Alderman Revelo.
Hey, Brett, this rehabilitation project's not just resurfacing the road. I'm pretty sure you're going to have to take away any old pipings away if they're not deep enough for the new construction, or like also electrical. Is there any old wiring?
Basically, what this project is not a full-blown reconstruction, as that price tag was closer to $5 million. This price tag on this project as a rehab is $1.9 million. So you're going to get we're going to have a mill, probably be milling 3 inches off of the pavement surface, new pavement. We'll have new curb and gutters, new sidewalks, new driveways. We're contemplating putting some of the electric utility service lines underground. We're working with the utilities on that. There'll be utility pole relocation, storm sewers, manholes and frames and stuff will be replaced. We have a section of 4-inch water main that we're required to replace through EPA guidelines, so we'll be upsizing that to the 8-inch portion. And like I said, the total project cost right now estimate is about $1.9 million.
Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Freeman?
Okay, so, it's gonna be my recommendation that we put, the Logan Avenue rehab project on hold indefinitely, due to this COVID-19 and the unknown economic impacts it's gonna have, long-term, short-term, we don't know yet. So my question is, how long is this design going to be good for if we pay the $50,000 now just for the design and then don't move ahead with the project? Because, you know, if we wait another 3, 4, even 5 years, if we have a really bad economic issue and the laws change, is this going to be throwing, you know, money away?
No, as far as the design engineering goes, because of the design standards have been around for a long time and we don't see big changes, with the exception of ADA and even ADA where they're at currently, I don't see a lot of changes going forward, maybe a little bit of relaxing of those requirements. But basically, the parameters that this project will be designed to are going to be in place for as in the foreseeable future. And the benefit that gives us is the utility companies will be able to move forward because as of right now, they're not going to do any more than what they've already done. So that'll help us get the utilities in place if and when we go forward with the construction on this project. And then it'll actually be shovel, quote-unquote, shovel-ready, which is a term the states and the feds like to use for projects if there happens to be another grant round that come around that this project may qualify for. So the design cost here, I think, is a good investment to make, and it'll just put us in a better position to go forward once that decision is made.
So, would you like to address the postponement of this project? And would Becky like to weigh in on that too, based on a necessity to do that?
Basically, that'll be up to the city council. The issue you're going to run into, which is what we've got to this point with this project already, is the fact that Logan Avenue is needed for an overlay is needed on that project. However, in order to do the overlays, we have to make the sidewalks ADA compliant. And because of the existing conditions of the sidewalks and that, there's going to be a lot of reconstruction needed to do that. And the overall design of the Logan Avenue rehab, we are going to reduce the lane widths from 12 feet to 11 feet. So the curbs are going to be relocated. So if we just simply did an overlay, then that would totally change what the final design would be of the project. So it would be better if we could move forward with that project on a timely basis.
Alderman Snow?
I'm assuming this, part of this funding must come from the motor fuel tax, or is it all just capital funds that pay for this?
Becky?
One thing you have to remember with the local motor fuel tax that you approved last year, that has to be spent on roads. We can't suck that away and use it on personnel or salaries or anything like that. It has to be used specifically for roads, correct, Mike?
That is correct, at least the portion from the state, that's correct.
Alderman Snow?
And I'm assuming, like most things, the longer we wait, the more it's going to cost. A 1.5 is going to cost 3, 4, 5 years from now.
That would be anticipated, yes.
I'd also add that this is early days. We've talked about the budget. Monies that are in the budget will not be spent if we get to a point where it looks like it's not the right thing to do. But not having the money in the budget and not spending the money the way it's supposed to be spent from the motor fuel tax creates another huge problem. So this project at this time would be expeditious to move ahead with because it is overdue, and we've already spent quite a lot of money on getting prepared to do it. So any additional questions or comments?
And again, just a reminder, this is just for the design engineering. Once this work is finished, then before we go out to bid, we'll be back in front of the council for authorization to go to bid the project, which you can anticipate probably early spring of next year, probably like the February timeframe of next year at the earliest, depending on how things go this summer with the utility relocates.
Alderman Frank?
Can we use the motor fuel tax for the flooding issues? I know you said roads, but can we use it for flooding issues?
Not unless it's tied to a road project somehow. In other words, if you are resurfacing a road, as part of that resurfacing the road, you're putting in a new storm pipe, you might be able to backdoor it that way, but short of doing something like that, no, you cannot.
There really isn't a flooding issue on Logan Avenue, per se.
No, but I'm saying, we do have a flooding issue elsewhere.
Yeah, and that we're addressing, no, we can't use that unless it's part of a road project.
Right, so we have to use capital on that for the problem.
Yeah. Anybody else have questions or comments on the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, Alderman Stevens, any other nays? Okay, so that is passed, and we forward to City Council for final disposition. Next up under B, we have the wastewater treatment plant NPDES 5-year land application permit renewal. Director Anderson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Again, in your packet memo, it's that time again. Our current land application permit is due to expire on August 31st of 2020, and we land apply over 5 million gallons of sludge per year on area agricultural properties, and we have received a work order from Baxter and Woodman in an amount not to exceed $5,000 to prepare and submit that application and permit renewal to the IEPA. I would recommend approval of that work order, and that work will be paid for from line item 6158206190.
May I have a motion to approve, please?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Alderman Reno, do I have a second? Second by Alderman Ratcliffe. Questions or comments? Alderman Snow.
So what exactly does the permit really do for anybody, other than say, we've got our sludge down to the most low volume of whatever sludge, and we apply it safely, but, you know, when you're just spraying it out, what exactly does it really do for anybody?
Well, the permit is very technical in nature, and the limits that we have to adhere to and the testing that we have to do. So we have to basically provide IEPA with a summary of our activities over the previous five-year period, as well as our projected forecast for going forward, and as well as give them summarizing our breakdown of what our sludge is, as far as what our metals content, what our phosphorus and ammonias and all of those things that make up the sludge that we put on the fields. We have to basically document all that and put that in the application and submit it to adhere to the guidelines as established by the EPA.
Does that answer your question, sir? Yes. Additional questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, thank you. Sounds unanimous to me. Next under C, the Appleton Tree Planting Project bid tabulation. Did we want to take this as an omnibus motion, or did you want 3 different motions and 3 different votes?
Well, let's just take this as probably 3 different motions.
Okay, then proceed.
For expending the funds. Again, memo in your packet, our Appleton Tree Planting Project, which council remembers is a grant we received from the IDNR and U.S. Forest Service. We received 3 unit price proposals on the trees, and there's a summary of those bids attached to the memo. And based on those bids, I would recommend 3 motions. The first being to purchase 6 trees from Clavy's Nursery in the amount of $870.
May I have a motion to approve? Motion by Alderman Snow. May I have a second, please? By Alderman Frank. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those.
I have a question.
Alderman Frank and then Alderman
Sorry.
Freeman. Go ahead, Alderman Frank.
Oh, I was just going to ask, where exactly is this going to be for Appleton Road?
It'll be for that section of Appleton from 6th Street south to US Route 20 in the public right-of-way. The majority of the trees will be going around what we know as our snow storage area down by Freed Park.
Alderman Freeman.
Okay, just so you guys know, I'm having a hard time hearing the aldermen speak, so I don't know if they have microphones, but my question is, these all add up, all these trees add up to like $10,648. So, how much is the grant by the, Department of Natural Resources, and are these 100% covered, or are they only partially covered by this grant, and is this going to cost us anything?
On the bid tabulation, you'll see the appropriation of $12,815, and that was what the grant amount was for, and the grant basically pays for 100% of the cost of the trees. It is a matching grant, and our match is going to be the in-kind services that we're going to provide. The street department personnel will be planting all of these trees and also responsible for the care and watering of the trees going forward for the life of the grant. So there's not going to, as far as there's not an indirect expense to the city for this project, in other words, through the in-kind services. We had a little bit of ARC money that we spent with ARC to do some of the work on the grant application itself in order to receive this grant, but otherwise the capital outlay is provided by the grant itself, and it's done on a reimbursement basis. So we'll actually make the purchase and then get reimbursed.
Anything? Go ahead.
Are these trees just little seedlings? Are they big trees? Are they guaranteed not to die?
No, unfortunately, they're not guaranteed not to die, but they are larger trees that are within the parameters established through the grant process. So most of them are 2-inch caliper trees in diameter, and otherwise the clump varieties are probably anywhere from 6 to 8 feet tall. Pine trees the conifers will be 6 foot in height. So they're not little whips as far as those go.
Okay.
Alderman Foreman, any other questions?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Snow, you have a question?
So on the chart that we got attached to the memo, obviously, I'm assuming you're not buying all the quantities that are highlighted on our sheet, because obviously that totals up way more than what we've got called out for individual contractors. So I was just curious as what we're looking at there, or is it just a guideline from them?
Oh, I'm not sure what you mean, but the highlighted yellows would be the trees that were purchased from each of those individuals. But because the pricing, basically because it was a unit price proposal, so then you go through the bid document, and not all the nurseries would be able to supply the trees specified. So that's why you see some of the blanks that they're not in. And then you look at the three and you choose the ones pricing wise that are the most reasonable for the city.
Okay, so all the highlights would add up to the total on the memo versus all the non-highlighted.
It should, and if it didn't, then I made a Scribner's error. We can take care of that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure interpretation. Thank you. Yep.
As we remember, we are talking about currently the motion on the floor is the purchase of 6 trees from Clover's Nursery. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, great. Sounds unanimous.
Next motion would be to purchase 45 trees from J. Carlson Growers in the amount of $6,725.
May I have a motion to that effect?
Make that motion.
Motion by Alderman Rivera. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Snow. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Again, unanimous.
And finally, then, a motion to purchase 18 trees from St. Aubin Nursery in the amount of $3,053.
May I have a motion to approve? Motion by Alderman Ratcliffe. May I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Motion by Alderman Arroyo. Questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor? Alderman Frank.
How did they determine 69 trees that you needed?
Well, that was a design that we submitted.
Alderman Frank, even though you're talking to want to keep talking in the microphone so they can hear you at home? Thanks.
I was asking how did they determine 69 trees?
Any additional questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion approved unanimously. Okay.
Next up, we have the General Mills crosswalk improvements. Again, memo and agreements attached, as well as a sketch. This has been a long-going process on this crosswalk. Let me start out by saying that. The county has begun the reconstruction of the Poplar Grove Road Bridge, and the construction limits for that bridge includes a portion of East Pleasant Street that is in the city's jurisdiction. Our first thought, when we originally talked to General Mills about this specific crosswalk, is we would just take it out. The reason why it's in play is because the bridge is being raised approximately 2 feet at the center of the bridge from its current elevation. So the section of East Pleasant Street that's city's jurisdiction needs to be adjusted, basically reconstructed to match the new bridge grade. And by doing that, then there's work that has to be done in the crosswalk. So our first thought was we would just eliminate that crosswalk, but unfortunately we were told by IDOT Springfield that with ADA requirements, we cannot simply remove that crosswalk because it is an existing crosswalk and we just cannot remove it. So we went back to General Mills and talked to them to see if there's anything else that we could do. And they had devised a plan at that time that they were going to move some parking around, switch employee parking to another portion of the plant, and they were just going to park the semi-trailers down there next to this crosswalk. So we took that to the state, and the state said, sure, if you want to do that and you actually move that parking and make those changes, we will let you eliminate that crosswalk. So that's how it was left when the bridge project itself was bid. Since that time, there's been some things happening in a positive way down at General Mills where the output and things down there are increasing, and they've had a change of what they're going to do, and they no longer wanted to relocate the truck parking and the employee parking. They wanted to keep it the way it was. So we were back to having to do the crosswalk at its current location. We also provided them with an option to move the crosswalk a little to the west of its current location, but having to review that, they've decided they didn't want to do that as well. The benefit to that movement would have been a cheaper crosswalk, because where the current crosswalk is, it's done with stairs because of the elevation difference, and with the road going up higher than what it is already, it's going to be a very expensive crosswalk. The estimate right now is somewhere between $120,000 to $150,000 for this crosswalk, because it's within the bounds of the federal project, we have to make it ADA compliant. So they have to add ramps to this crosswalk. It'll require a retaining wall. It's a pretty sophisticated structure when it's all finished. There's a sketch plan attached, the very last page, plan and profile view. And if you can see the amount of ramp and work that's involved with making this ADA compliant, you can see some of the cost. General Mills has agreed to pay for that cost for both the design work and the construction work. And we have an agreement right now, a draft form agreement to them, waiting their input and signature. They have also agreed to pay for the engineering services. Hanson Professional Engineers, the proposal which you have included with the memo, is the firm that did the bridge design work, and they've done a lot of this previous work initially. So that's why they were chosen to provide this estimate to do this design that IDOT's we need to do this design and submit the plans to IDOT for their approval. And General Mills, again, has agreed to pay for this cost. So I would recommend approval of the proposal from Hanson Professional Services, an amount not to exceed $23,975 for the General Mills crosswalk improvements. This work will be paid for from line item 41-5-110-8020 and reimbursed by General Mills.
May I have a motion to approve?
Alderman Crawford will make that motion.
Okay, Alderman Crawford, I'll let you win this one. Alderman Snow has the second. Additional questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor? Alderman Revelo.
Next time you talk to General Mills, can you thank him for paying for the project?
Well, I am, and I have, and I will continue to do so. And they're also doing some other improvements down there. They're changing a few of their crosswalks around. There's some stairs down there now currently that they're going to be removing, and they're going to be installing some additional sidewalks down there as well. So they are making quite a bit of improvement down there.
And Mr. Mayor, for purposes of clarifying the record, I would recommend separate motions. The first one to approve the Hanson Professional Services Incorporated agreement with respect to the, as presented in the pack, and the second one for the agreement with General Mills.
That was going to be my next motion after this one.
Well, he can't roll them all together, so I was worried they're combining them.
So we'll start out with the approval of the $23,975 Hanson Professional Services fee for design of the crosswalk. I have a motion and a second. Are there any other comments or questions concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. There's a time lag, sorry. And then,
And then I need a motion then to approve the crosswalk agreement with General Mills.
may I have a motion to that effect, please?
I'll make that
Porter will
motion.
make that motion.
Sounds like Porter made that motion.
Motion by Porter, second by Revelo. Additional questions or comments concerning the motion now on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Next up, and the final item on the agenda this evening is a block party request, contingent, of course, upon termination of the governor's orders limiting public gatherings at 140 Beacon Street, and I believe this isn't until the end of the summer,
July 11th.
July 11th. Okay, and it's a wedding reception? Okay.
Correct.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the request?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Alderman Revelo. May I have a second? Alderman Ratcliffe. Questions or comments? Alderman Snow.
Usually I thought we had a cutoff of like 9 or 10 for most block parties. This is going to midnight, so I didn't know if we wanted to deviate or if anybody had any comments, so just tossing that out there.
All night long.
It's down the street from you, not me.
Anyone have any comments on that? Are we all in accord?
Mayor, Alderman Crawford?
Yes, Alderman Crawford.
Yeah, I would say, about making an exception for this, because it is a wedding reception. And the way that it's blocked off on that map, it looks like it encompasses that, just that block right there, so I would think there's no problem with that.
Anyone else have comments?
I agree
Yes.
with that.
And we have our normal noise ordinances, so
Okay.
that would, anyone that would possibly complain about too loud of music, so.
Good point, man. Good point, Alderman Stevens. Anybody else? Hearing nothing, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. That ends our festivities this evening. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Motion, Alderman Crawford.
Okay, we've got Revelo and Crawford simultaneous motions. First and second. Anyone opposed? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're done. Thank you.
And don't forget, next Monday, we don't have a meeting because it's the 5th Monday.
It's the fifth Monday, and we don't have a meeting. Thank you, Alderman Snow. Thank you all for being patient tonight and working through doing it this way. I think it went quite well. Everybody be safe and be well.